Hi class, this is a video for English 3 at 695 at Cleveland State University. If you're anyone else watching this, quarantine is already making you crazy. Play some parcheesi, a little backgammon, read a book. Hi class, Titus Andronicus. I know, it's a lot. We have cannibalism, human sacrifice, rape, mutilation, you name it. It is grotesque and intense in many ways. Some readers find it laughable, inhuman. This is a relatively early play of Shakespeare's. People who like it less will try to push it earlier and earlier, but certainly written before it was 30. Sometimes earliness can be an excuse for Shakespeare plays we don't like. There's a long tradition of people attempting, especially starting in the 19th century, of people trying to deny that this is by Shakespeare at all. On what grounds? On the grounds that they don't like it. Therefore, it cannot be he, although it was published with his name on it in his lifetime. What you gonna do? One later version of this, your editors are feel quite certain, based on computer evidence, etc., that this is a collaboration, and they feel very confident, being very specific about which collaborators and who wrote what. That's a lot of confidence. I would say for our purposes in class, don't worry about attribution or authorship. Just take this as the text it is. That's what we know. This is the text. It is. One reason it is genuinely relatively early, it's published in 1594, it's written by 1592, so it's written by the time Shakespeare is 28. And you know, that's relatively early in his career as we know it. It bears a lot of the mark, as early Shakespeare does, of the kind of early 90s dramaturgy dominated by his contemporary, the late great Christopher Marlowe. One of the things that happens in Marlowe plays, unlike later Shakespeare plays we know, is that Shakespeare, over in the middle of his career, creates a kind of dramaturgy about a character arc that is measured out by degrees, where a character like Macbeth is changing step by step throughout the course of the play. He's not in a very good place when we meet him, but he's in a very different and much worse place when we say goodbye. And that has come to us to seem familiar and Shakespearean, and also natural because it's enormously influential. If Titus Andronicus doesn't feel Shakespearean in that way, it's because Shakespeare hasn't gotten around to creating that dramaturgy yet. These characters still behave like Marlowe characters and other earlier Elizabethan dramatist characters, where people go from high to low, up to down, good to bad, in the blink of an eye, where character flips around extremely quickly, where you don't need to change by degrees. You can just do a quick 180. That is really how this operates. This doesn't seem psychologically plausible to us now, though maybe we should reconsider that, but this is certainly standard early 1590s English dramaturgy. This is also an extremely classicist play. Shakespeare is always deeply indebted to his classical education as an English school, as a grammar school boy, the kind of Latin classics he has read. And I want to say two things about the Romanness of this play. Of all his Roman works, this is the most ahistorical, in that it is completely ahistorical. There was no Roman general Titus Andronicus. This doesn't seem like a big deal to you. All of the other Roman plays that Shakespeare writes and his Roman dramatic poem, The Rape of Lucrece, these are all about well-known, well-established characters whom were either, all of whom Shakespeare considered historical, and most of whom were historical. He didn't make up Julius Caesar or Mark Antony or Coriolanus. Those are actual people. Titus Andronicus never existed. He is a figment of the imagination. There was never an emperor Saturninus who married a Goth queen. Didn't happen. all made up. The human sacrifice, which is so prominent in this play, and which is part of the ongoing thematic heart of the play, is also ahistorical. It is not clear to what degree the Romans ever practiced human sacrifice, but the kind of sacrifice they and the Romans themselves, original contemporary Roman documents, disagree. Like, well, we used to do it. We never do that. We used to do that, but we gave it up. We only do that occasionally in extreme circumstances. It's complicated. You can check Mary Beard's classic 2-volume Roman Religion for the details of that. That what they never did, certainly not as late as the imperial period, which is pretty late in Roman history, is this kind of wholesale routine human sacrifice. Hey, yeah, we bring some of our captives home from Rome and we sacrifice them to appease our own war debt. That is just a fantasy of Shakespeare's and potentially of his collaborators. Okay. On the other hand, this is the most indebted in an extreme way to the literature and legend of Rome. In a way, it references almost all of the Roman legends at once. We have Lucrece. We have a character named Lavinia, which is the name of Aeneas's wife in the Aeneid, like the founding mother of the Romans. The foremother of the Romans is Lavinia here. And, you know, this is a Lavinia who knows she's named after that earlier Lavinia. We have the Tyreus story. We have a lot of Ovid, and we have a lot of Seneca. The two greatest influences on Shakespeare are the poet Ovid and his Metamorphoses. Procne and Philomel is the kind of story of like the woman who's raped and loses the tongue, and then is transformed into a bird, though no such luck here. And Seneca is the great tragedian. Shakespeare did not read the Greek dramatists. He did not read Sophocles. He and his contemporaries read Seneca, which can be over the top like this. What we're seeing in Titus Andronicus is part of a general English Senecanism of the late 1580s and early 1590s that take that tragedy, which is already kind of more over the top, and stages more than Greek tragedy did, and really taking it over the top with spectacle. Let's show you all the violence. Let's bring the ghosts on stage to yammer at us. Let us have big, long, bombastic speeches. This is extremely Roman, extremely literary. It is a deep engagement, an attempt to kind of get all of the Roman legends into one play with characters who know that they're echoing those legends, who refer back to those earlier stories. And the combination of them makes Rome into a complete disaster.